Hi there, this is Mike from Stagecoach Road Vintage Sewing Machine, and this is your machine, a beautiful Montgomery Wards HBC Class 15 machine. And she's been idle for a while, and anytime your machine's been idle for say a month or more, it's a good idea to give it a little bit of oil before you start. So before we go into our final test, we're going to give this little sweetheart a few drops of oil. Always use good quality sewing machine oil, and just 1 or 2 drops in each oiling point. And if you end up getting a little too much oil on, it's not a big deal. Just blot it with a napkin or a paper towel, just so you don't get oil on your project. You want to go under the faceplate. I'm going to take screwdriver, regular flat screwdriver. Just loosen this screw slightly. You have access to all of the moving parts inside. And you're not helping. Just cycle your machine a couple of times and see what moves. It'll become obvious where you need a drop of oil. Just a little oil at every movement point, 1 or 2 drops. And a drop or 2 in this felt pad above your needle bar. As you may be able to tell, I'm away from the shop, doing this at my friend's house. If you tip the machine back on its hinges, you can access all the moving parts underneath. And the same thing, just turn it and look and see what moves. These points here where the shafts connect are little needle connections. It means that there's a pointed screw that goes into a socket in the end of the bar. And that point needs a drop of oil. And of course, there are several of them here. Look for oil holes. Cycle it and look and see if we've missed anything. You also need a little drop of oil in the hook race here. That should do her. If you're using her often, like daily. You want to oil her every few days. If you use her just on occasion and keep her put away most of the time, you want to oil her once a month or so because the oil does evaporate. If she seems to be running slow and sluggish, first make sure that you don't have thread jammed up somewhere or wrapped around the hand wheel or somewhere where it shouldn't be. The thickness of a few wraps of thread is enough to slow your machine down. But oil all of those points and then run it for a while just to get all the oil in. Either raise your presser foot or drop the feed dogs so that you're not grinding against the bottom of the presser foot with your feed dog. This is your stitch length control. Down is forward, up is reverse, and right in the very center here is 0, where the fabric doesn't move. And if you sew with your machine at 0, it's going to make a big wad under your needle plate, and you'll have to stop and cut it out and go through a lot of trouble. So don't do that. But the further you get away from the center point, the longer your stitches will be. So just below that center line, you're going to have very short stitches, and as you go down, you'll have longer and longer stitches. The same in reverse. As you go up, your stitches get longer and longer and longer in reverse. Now, if you're sewing with a certain stitch length and you're going to do some back tacking and you want to make sure that your stitches are the very same length in forward and reverse, loosen this screw here. You can turn this dial, which locks your stitch length so it's the same in forward and reverse. Otherwise, you may just leave it down all the way in. So you have full access to all your stitch lengths and widths, or wait, lengths only. It's a great stitch machine. This is your bobbin winder, and we'll wind the bobbin just to show you how it's done. This is your attachment set, your attachments and accessories, and a couple of screwdrivers here. This is your user manual, owner's guide. It'll tell you how to maintain your machine and how to use the various attachments. And it, no doubt somewhere in here has oiling instructions if you want to look them over before you oil your machine. This is the original warranty, which, let's see, period of 1 year. I think that it's beyond that. Now, to wind the bobbin, put your thread spool on the spool pin. Go through this thread guide on this side, down under this bobbin winding tensioner, and then into one of the holes on your bobbin. To the end of your thread, and wrap the thread around your bobbin in this direction a few times just to kind of lock it down so the thread doesn't slip out when you start winding. And then onto your bobbin winder. Push this little thumb pad, and the little finger here will drop down. What this finger does is, as the thread builds up on the bobbin, it gradually pushes this up until at the point where the bobbin's full, it pops open and stops winding. So push that down. In the middle of your hand wheel is the clutch knob. Hold your hand wheel and turn the clutch knob toward you, about 1/8 of a turn or so. You'll feel it stop. And that releases the hand wheel, so the hand wheel can turn without making the rest of the machine cycle. Okay, so we're going to wind a bobbin now. Your thread is on the spool pin, through this thread guide, under this tensioner, up onto the bobbin, and the thread winds over this way. You don't have to go fast, although you can if you want to. Looks like this is an excellent opportunity to adjust the bobbin with your a little bit. Not quite even. But that's a real easy adjustment. Oh, that's better. And again, you don't need we're not going to wind the full bobbin because this is just for the test. Then you cut your bobbin thread, leave 4 or 5 inches of tail there. Click your bobbin up, take off your bobbin, and tighten the clutch knob. Start sewing and the needle doesn't move. Remember to come back here and tighten your clutch knob. Your bobbin goes underneath here in the bobbin case. There's a little hinged lever on the side of the bobbin case that you can hold on to. And when you pull that out, it holds on to the bobbin inside so the bobbin doesn't drop out during the operation. So we'll take that out, and you want the thread to come off of the top of your bobbin in this direction. Then you pull your thread up until it fits into the little slot in the side of the bobbin case. And then under this leaf spring, it will sort of click into place when you pull it up. You'll feel just a little bit of tension on your thread. Hold that little lever open while you put it in, and that'll keep the bobbin from falling out. And this little finger on the top here will go into its corresponding slot at the top of the hook when you put your bobbin back in. Make sure that it seats all the way in and that little finger goes into its slot there at the top of the hook. Okay, to thread your machine. I'm going to turn this on this way a little bit. Put your thread on the spool pin. Go down through the thread guide on the back of the machine directly into the tension assembly between the discs of the tension. And all the way around back to the top so you can catch this little notch right here on the side of the tension assembly. Once you're in that notch, then you go down and catch the check spring, which is down here. Okay, there we go. Once you catch the check spring, when you pull up on it, you'll see the spring go up and down. You want to go into the hole in the presser foot, and they put a convenient slot here at the top, so you can just lay your thread across the top and it pulls right in. Then you go into the thread guide here on the face plate, and into the thread guide on the needle clamp, and then through the eye of the needle from left to right. I usually cut a fresh end on my thread because it's easier to put a fresh end than a frayed end through that little hole. And a cool trick to remember is if you put something white behind the needle, it makes it so much easier to see the eye of the needle and the end of the thread. Once you have your thread through the eye of the needle, make sure that you haven't accidentally wrapped around anything that shouldn't be wrapped around. Now hold the end of your thread where it comes out of the needle, and without flexing the needle here. If you pull on your thread, you'll flex it. Just hold it steady. Turn the hand wheel towards you, one full rotation, and that will pull up your lower thread. So now we have both threads here. Take the upper thread between the toes of the presser foot and towards the back. So both your threads go out towards the back of the machine, and now you're ready to sew. Your clutch knob is tightened up. You're in the forward position, using the knee control down here. Let's see. Let's cut us a little piece of test fabric. Okay, we're going to start with a fairly short stitch length. Hold your threads just for the first stitch or two, so it sets the lock stitch. Make sure that your feet is in the up position and not the drop position. And then off you go. Okay, now we're going to sew a long stitch. So, as you can see, she's working great, and she's ready to make the long trip across the ocean to you. And we hope that you love her as much as we do. If you take good care of her, she'll last you for the rest of your life, and be able to pass her on to your children and your grandchildren. So that's it. This is Mike from Stagecoach Road Vintage Sewing Machine. This is your final test video. Thanks for watching.